Welcome. Today we're looking into, well, a really complex stack of sources detailing a true crime story. It's less a mystery, more a spiral, a devastating path of revenge and its consequences.
Yeah, it really is. We're focusing on the murder of Matthew Dunmire back in 2021 in Ohio. But you can't just look at the act itself. You have to unpack who Chelsea Perkins was the killer and her connection to Dunmire.
Right. Because she wasn't just anyone. A former military veteran, a mother married,
Yeah.
and also running an OnlyFans account as Sabrina Savage.
Exactly. And the sources say she drove, over 300 miles across state lines, apparently with one goal: revenge.
And that's where the complexity really hits you, isn't it? It's not just the murder. There's this disputed history of sexual assault years earlier.
Yeah.
Then the meticulous planning for the murder itself, the attempted cover-up.
Which kind of fell apart.
Yeah, and then this critical delay in the investigation by the authorities.
Right,
and
sure.
that delay leads to, well, another unbelievable tragedy involving the victim's own family.
It's just this chain reaction, you know? So let's start at the beginning with the people involved.
Okay. Chelsea Perkins and Matthew Dunmire. They knew each other from Virginia. Sources aren't totally clear on when, maybe high school, but they had a history.
And Dunmire, he was trying to make it as a musician. He was also a dad, had kids with his long-term girlfriend.
Perkins, on the other hand,
Yeah.
quite the background, U.S. Coast Guard veteran, married to someone also in the Coast Guard, a mother, and then there's the OnlyFans side.
Yeah, Sabrina Savage. It suggests, I don't know, different compartments to her life, maybe. The core conflict, though, seems to trace back to 2017.
That's when Perkins went to the Virginia Beach police. She reported that Dunmire had raped her.
Right, and the police, they did investigate the claim.
But the crucial outcome there, legally speaking, is that no charges were ever filed. The reason cited was a lack of evidence.
So on paper, the case was closed. But clearly, for Perkins, it wasn't over. Not by a long shot.
Seems like she held on to that grievance for, 4 years?
Yeah, until early 2021. That's when the revenge plot really seems to take shape. She reached out to Dunmire again on Facebook.
Reconnected after all that time, accepted his friend request even. And around then, she posted some really unsettling things online.
Disturbing stuff. Things like, he will get his someday, and that typo. Dead men tell no tale. T-A-I-L.
Chilling. Screams premeditation, doesn't it? Not an impulsive act. This looks like a plan, disguised as, a casual hookup.
Absolutely. The planning is pretty clear. She drives that 300, maybe 350 miles, Virginia to Cleveland, Ohio.
In her husband's car. Right, smart car.
Yeah, a white smart car, which, isn't exactly blending into the background on an interstate trip like that. She rents an Airbnb in Cleveland.
And Dunmire, he tells his friends he's meeting a woman he met online. He goes to the Airbnb.
And they spend the night together. He seemingly has no idea what she's really there for. Completely trusting.
That detail about the smart car, though.
Right.
For such a long drive to commit a murder, it feels like a major oversight in an otherwise detailed plan.
Oh, totally. It became a huge piece of evidence later. But the rest of it, tracking him down, luring him there, the Airbnb, it shows calculation. Maybe she just missed that one crucial bit of, Operation Security with the car.
She needed him to let his guard down completely.
Exactly. And that moment comes the next morning, March 6th, 2021.
Perkins drives Dunmire out to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's federal land near Valley View, Ohio. A beautiful place, ironically.
But they didn't stick to the main trails. The sources say they hiked off-trail into a wooded area, the Terra Vista Natural Study Area.
So they're isolated, deep in the woods.
Mm-hmm. And that's when she pulls out the gun. She'd brought a loaded firearm with her. Shoots him once, back of the head.
Just like that. His body wasn't found for 3 days, right? March 9th, near a cemetery, by some hikers.
Yeah. Prosecutors called it coldly calculated intention. And the calculation didn't end with a shot. She immediately started trying to cover her tracks.
An elaborate cover story, you said, but one that didn't hold up.
Not really. First, the digital cleanup. Deletes their Facebook messages, unfriends him. Standard stuff, maybe.
But then there was that note.
Right. The investigators found it later, a deleted note on her phone. She'd written it as if it was from Dunmire.
Pretending to be him. What did it say?
It confessed to the rape back in 2017, called himself a shitty person, said he'd decided to leave this cruel world, basically trying to stage the whole thing as a suicide driven by guilt.
Using the very allegation the police couldn't substantiate years before.
Oh, wow. It's a twisted way to try and justify it after the fact. And then comes this other detail, which is just baffling.
What's that?
Right after leaving Ohio, she doesn't go straight home. She drives to Michigan.
Michigan. Why Michigan?
To get a tattoo. Immediately. A very specific one.
Which was?
A noose on her forearm.
A noose right after. Oh, my God. That's not just covering tracks. That's something. It's entirely, almost ritualistic.
It feels like it, doesn't it? Like the deleting messages part was rational, logical cover-up. But the tattoo, that seems like a deep psychological need to, I don't know, mark the act, to claim it almost, before facing any consequences.
Okay, so the FBI steps in because it happened on federal parkland. And despite her attempts at a cover-up, the trail she left was pretty clear.
Yeah, the forensic evidence started piling up fast. They didn't need her to confess.
And that smart car came back to haunt her.
Big time. License plate readers, traffic cams. They tracked that distinctive white car all the way from Virginia to Ohio and back again. Placed her right there, before and after the murder.
Plus, there were witnesses near the park.
People saw a woman who matched her description. They specifically mentioned knee-high boots, leaving that remote trail area around the time a shot was heard.
And the physical evidence directly linking her.
Undeniable. Her DNA was found on Dunmire's body, on his pubic hair, and under his fingernails.
Under the fingernails.
Perkins.
Suggests maybe some contact right before. Or a struggle.
Could be. They also found her DNA, along with his, on an Aquafina water bottle right next to the body, like they'd been sharing it.
And the murder weapon itself.
Found it during a search of her home in Virginia. A 9mm pistol, tucked inside a purse.
Along with her ID.
Along with her photo ID. And ballistics confirmed it was the gun used to kill Dunmire. Bullet matched perfectly.
So from an evidence standpoint, the case looks pretty solid. Very quickly, too.
Absolutely. By the end of March 2021, just weeks after the murder, the FBI seems to have had overwhelming proof. The DNA, the car, the gun, the witnesses.
Which leads us to maybe the most crucial and agonizing part of this whole story.
The delay.
Yeah. They have all the evidence by late March. But Chelsea Perkins isn't arrested until December 9th, 2021.
That's nearly 9 months. 9 months where she's free, knowing what she did, and crucially, the victim's family knowing. Well, they suspected her, but saw no action.
And that 9-month gap, it created this vacuum, this space where grief and frustration festered for Matthew Dunmire's parents, Tommy Lynn Dunmire and John Nelson McQuillan.
They felt like justice wasn't happening. They saw the suspect walking free, and they decided, tragically, to take matters into their own hands.
This was in November 2021 during that waiting period.
Yeah. They drove from Ohio, I believe, all the way to Washington, D.C. They were hunting for Chelsea Perkins.
And their plan was chillingly specific.
Tommy Lynn, the mother, disguised herself, put on a UPS driver uniform.
A disguise to get close, to catch someone off guard. She went to an apartment door in D.C.
Knocked on the door. But here's where this already awful story takes just a gut-wrenching turn.
It wasn't Perkins.
No. The woman who answered the door had absolutely nothing to do with it. Completely innocent, unrelated person.
But Tommy Lynn still attacked her.
Shot her. Twice. In the abdomen. Just an unbelievable case of mistaken identity fueled by this desperate need for vengeance.
Did the victim survive?
Miraculously, yes, she did survive. But the consequences for the Dunmire parents were immediate and catastrophic.
The police intercepted their car right after the shooting.
And Tommy Lynn Dunmire died by suicide right there in the car, before she could be arrested.
Oh, my God. And the father, McQuillan.
He was arrested. He eventually pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact to assault with intent to kill. Got a 3-year prison sentence.
So the original murder, driven by alleged past trauma and revenge, directly led to an innocent person being shot, and the suicide of one of the vigilantes. The ripple effect is just devastating.
It truly is. The layers of tragedy just keep piling on top of each other, all stemming from that initial act and the subsequent delay.
Okay, let's circle back to Chelsea Perkins' case then. After all this, facing that mountain of evidence.
And the possibility of a first-degree murder trial, which in the federal system often means mandatory life.
She decided to take a deal.
Right. She pleaded guilty, not to first-degree, but to second-degree murder, and also using a gun during a violent crime. The plea agreement basically set a range for her sentence, somewhere between 20 and 25 years.
And the actual sentence.
Judge Solomon Oliver Jr. presided. He landed on 22.5 years in federal prison, plus 5 years of supervised release after she gets out.
When the judge gave the sentence, how did he talk about the motive? Did he address the revenge versus the trauma claim?
He did. That was really the core issue at sentencing. He acknowledged the prosecution's argument that this was clearly revenge, a calculated act.
But the defense pushed the trauma narrative, stemming from the alleged 2017 assault.
Exactly. They presented evidence and testimony about her lifetime of trauma. The judge had to consider that. He acknowledged it was part of the story.
But did it significantly mitigate the sentence, in his view?
It seems not drastically. The prosecution also made a point about her apparent lack of remorse.
How so?
They mentioned her behavior in court, apparently smiling, making a heart sign to her sister during the proceedings. The judge also made a comment, noted in the sources, that she wasn't living a lifestyle conducive to being a good mother.
So balancing the trauma against the cold calculation and maybe her demeanor.
Yeah, the judge seemed to land on trauma acknowledged, but the crime itself was planned, brutal, and the lack of remorse was notable. So 22.5 years. She'll be in her early 50s when she's released.
What a case. This deep dive really uncovered, like you said, not just one tragedy, but this cascade of them. You have the initial planned murder born from alleged past wrongs.
The calculated cover-up attempt, the digital trail.
And then this horrifying second wave of violence.
Yeah.
The parents, driven by grief and frustration with system space, ending up committing another terrible crime, targeting the wrong person, leading to a suicide. It just shows how vengeance can breed more violence, doesn't it?
It really does. And it puts you in the judge's shoes, trying to weigh these incredibly heavy factors. How much weight do you give to the alleged trauma from years ago when faced with such a methodical, cold-blooded murder?
Especially when the system's own delay might have inadvertently contributed to the second tragedy.
Exactly. It forces you to think about how the justice system functions, or sometimes fails to function, in the face of such deep-seated anger and grief. How do you balance accountability for a calculated act with the context that might have fueled it, even context that was never proven in court?
A lot to think about there. Definitely a complex web of actions and devastating consequences. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the source material.